and he posted on Facebook if we could ask about crop circles. He just has an interest in crop circles. Would you mind, Ray, if there's a time to squeeze a question in on crop circles, would you mind asking that?
Not at all. I appreciate it. I'll throw him in line as that question come up.
Thanks so much.
Wow, that is really interesting. I can't wait to hear the answer.
Okay, I'll get. Oh, where's the recording?
It said it's already recording. Is that?
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So I'll just get in the state. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on.
So we figured out the answer to time and space in the universe.
Greetings. This is Zariyah from the Orion civilization. We are so pleased that you could join with us today to hear a brief transmission on an ear for higher listening. What we would like to share with you today is some tools and understanding around communicating with and indeed walking lockstep with your higher self. We would like to discuss this topic today because, as you know, 2024 is a year of rapid transition, and April represents a month where that transition is really very heightened. As a result, there is feelings of uncertainty and destabilization in the general atmosphere, and therefore it is a poignant time to be able to really tune in to the voice of your higher self. First, we will start by describing what your total self is in actuality. Many individuals on your planet have a sense of something like a higher self. They have a sense of their non-physical self. They have a sense of ancestry or loved ones transitioned. They have a sense of connections with other timelines, but it is often a sense that they find not as tangible or as real in one sense as the physical reality that they live in every day. This is really the first thing to acknowledge when you are commencing a stronger conversation with your higher self, is that you are a total made up of composite parts. You are not just your physical self. And we don't mean this in the sense that you are more than your physical self. We mean you are actually composite of concrete other parts. They are parts. They are not just influences upon you, the central part. They are components of you. Your whole is greater than your physical self. The component parts of your total self comprise of your higher self, your oversoul, your connections to counterparts, and your connections to intergalactic, interdimensional, and non-physical beings. These are all parts of you. They are branches of you that come to a physical realization point in the expression of you in this focused form now. It is often the practice of human beings who are not necessarily awake to the realization that they are more than just this physical form, to focus the entirety of their beingness on the physical part of themselves, that being the physical mind and the physical body. And while this is an important part, it is actually less than, we are going to say, 25% of your total being. We understand that it's easy to mistake it for your whole being because it is easy to reach out and touch, so to speak, and you have become accustomed to that. But it is really in the recognition of the totality of your being that you will be able to expand into stronger conversations with your higher self initially, and then stronger conversations with your counterpart selves, and indeed channel information from your oversoul. How exciting. So therefore, we would say step one is to recognize the realness and the importance of your higher self to your total self. Step two is to understand that each component of yourself has a particular purpose, has a particular function. The function of your physical self is to be the vessel that walks along the road, the part of yourself that experiences the physical journey. However, it is not designed to map out your soul path. That is the jurisdiction, so to speak, of your higher self. If you can imagine, your higher self has a more panoramic view of your path. It can see already the ways that you can expand if you have certain experiences and certain encounters. And it is always ahead of you clearing the path. It is always ahead of you arranging the most fortuitous circumstances to unfold. All you have to do is allow yourself to tune into that wisdom that is already part of you and communicating with you all the time. Step three is to understand how to tune in. And we will say that if you allow yourself to recognize the role of each of your composite parts, you allow yourself to recognize that your physical self is the actor in this time-space reality, and your higher self is the driver of your journey in the time-space reality. It becomes easier to allow yourself to work together. You can tell your physical self, you do not need to control everything. You do not need to work everything out. That is not your job. Your talent as a physical being is in actioning physical reality. The talent of your higher self is in surveying all of the timelines and the landscapes and assisting you in taking confident strides in the direction that will be of most service to you, of optimal service to you. Therefore, you can recognize that emotions such as fear, doubt, worry, stress are emotions that are resultant from the physical self trying to take the driver's seat, when in reality, the physical self should be a receiver of information from the higher self and then the experiencer of the path. In this way, you can generate a symbiotic relationship first between your physical self and your higher self. And then as the strength of that communion grows and you are able to trust in the role of each component of yourself and the beautiful artistry of that relationship and the harmony and synchronicity that that relationship generates, you can then expand out those capabilities to begin through your higher self, forming more stronger relationships and bonds with your counterparts on other timelines. How exciting! It is a process of, we would say, active listening, learning how to tune in and learning how to talk to both your physical self in an encouraging way, but also a way that recognizes the value and limitation of the role of your physical self, and to tune into the messages and the deep wisdom of your higher self, and acknowledge that the role of your higher self is to be in service to your total self. How exciting. We do hope that this short description of your total self, the roles of each of your component selves, and the ways that you can develop an intrapersonal relationship in an interdimensional sense can be of some assistance. If there are any questions, we are happy to take them now.
Miles?
Well, that was a wonderful, thank you. So my question fits right into that, I think.
Yes.
I'm trying to grapple with an idea or a concept, and this is it. And it's in two parts. The first one is, as long as you can describe it, it's not that. It's a mystery. It's beyond description. The finite can never comprehend the infinite. So long as you can describe it and talk about it, it's not that. And this is something you should always remember. And then Bashar said that we're not capable of thinking,
Yes.
that all thoughts come from the higher mind,
Yes,
and
indeed.
that our place in this physical reality is so small that we're not capable of understanding things in a sort of like a logical sense. And even when we think about the past, it's flawed. We can be very logical, but we're also being extremely tight about the about what is cause and effect, and it's too limiting to actually be meaningful. And if you could, and so this has kind of put me on my ear. You know,
Yes.
if I'm trying to talk to somebody and what I'm saying is not that, is there,
Yes.
what's the point in talking to someone?
Well, we would recognize always that there is more than one truth in any understanding of reality. It is not that any perspectives are not true. It is that there is always more than one thing going on. And in the sense that you, when you describe you as not being able to understand the infinite and the truly expansive nature of the universe, we would qualify that by saying your physical self, but your physical self is not your total self. And this is the distinction that we are asking you to really embrace in this transmission, because your total self is composite of your higher self, your physical self, source energy, your oversoul, your many counterpart experiences, and interspecies, interdimensional, intergalactic connections. Your total self is almost indescribable. And this fits in with the way that you have described the indescribable nature of existence. But that does not mean that because things are in one sense unknowable, that you cannot in another sense seek to know them. And it is not just the physical self that is doing the seeking. The higher self is also doing the seeking. And of course, seeking the revelation of mystery is one of the great paths of divinity. It is the idea that one would seek to know source and seek to know thyself also. And in fact, that was the precursor to source's original expansion, the idea that source sought to know itself from another perspective. So the divine calling of seeking to unravel the mystery is one of the, we would say, highest, most enlightened attitudes of any being. In that sense, also, the path never ends. The universe encompasses everything in existence, and there is always more. The idea that there could always be more is certainly almost impossible for the physical mind to process, because the physical mind likes to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is the manner in which the physical mind has understood almost all of reality, and indeed even its own life. Many human beings on your planet are very concerned with physical mortality because it looks like the end. And the idea of pushing out the end for as long as possible is a preoccupation of many on your planet. But of course, your higher self knows there is no end of that nature. Even your physical body does continue in one sense, reabsorbed into the whole of Gaia and reproducing itself anew in a different expression and a different form. So there is no end. But how to know that as a physical being is certainly difficult. But the quest to know more, to understand all of the different types of reflections of source that you can, and to indeed understand yourself and all of the different of reflections of source that you represent is a divine quest indeed. We would say the universe is unknowable, but to know thyself is an honorable endeavor. Does that help?
Oh, it's just wonderful. So just to be clear, do all our thoughts come from our higher self?
There is a distinction we would make between the production of thoughts that are, in a sense, related exclusively to the material realm. We would consider these thoughts to be types of information, much like you would see that AI can produce, that there is data and there is cobbled together strings of information that can produce a type of thinking. But what we would consider the truly inspired thought, that is creativity, that is inspiration, that is the heart mind working in unison, and the symbiosis of abstract and emotional perspectives, philosophies and mathematics, physics and geometry. These expressions do indeed come from universal knowledge, universal wisdom. The channel is searching for the appropriate word. It is not so much knowledge as it is the nature of reality itself being encoded with these truths. Does that help?
Enormously, Zariyah. Thank you so much. It's very uplifting for me.
You are so welcome.
Hi, Zariyah. My question is related to the history of the planet Earth.
Yes.
So was there a period of gigantic silicon-based life on Earth before our non-historical timeline? And could many of the natural formation, like a mountain and the valleys of our world, be the scarring from past large-scale quarry operation?
Yes. So you must understand when you pose a question such as this, that the histories of Earth are far more ancient and far more copious than has been described to you. We have described to you one history that involved extraterrestrial mining for gold. And that certainly created quarry effects in the searching for resources within the interior of Gaia. However, that history is, when we are talking about the history of Earth, the Earth itself is actually quite recent. Earth is not a comprehensible amount of years old in your time frame estimations. There is matter in the universe that has been reimagining itself in form and new since almost what you would consider the dawn of time. And given that we were only talking about the concepts of things that are somewhat unknowable in the previous question, the idea of the dawn of time is one of those things, quite unknown. We would have to go back to the original splitting of source. And of course, that is when you try to put it on a linear timeline, something that is not comprehensible. So therefore, anything that you can imagine in terms of the forms and structures of Earth, in terms of the civilizations that have risen and fallen, the visitations from other beings, and the nature, the ways in which organisms have reconfigured themselves into silicon forms, into mineral forms, into different configurations of matter, is really limitless. And that is Zariyah trying to communicate with you the panoramic view that she is taking on one timeline. Remember that the timelines associated with Earth are also infinite. So anything that you can imagine that Earth has been, it has been. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Greetings, Zariyah. In the past, you've referred to our civilization and some of the things we're going through as
Yes.
things that your civilization has gone through. And
Yes.
I think you've even referred to it taking eons and maybe anyway, maybe you've already answered this question in your opening dialogue, but when you look at our civilization as a planet, if you look at our planet now, where do you see our greatest blind spots, our almost as if you were sitting with a group of your friends, if such an image is viable, and you were all scratching your chin at the same time, saying, "What I am most concerned about this planet Earth is," what would you have to say to us? What kind of advice can you give us as a planet?
Yes, scratch my head. Let me see. We certainly have come through for your civilization because you are family. Many of the souls of Orion have incarnated in part or in components into this time-space reality because they are still, if you can imagine that, still playing out some of the polarity narratives that have been the focus of their soul journey for many, many eons. And Earth represents another opportunity to cycle through with that idea. So we are invested in the human civilization on this timeline, coming to awareness and coming to realization of the things that took us so long to understand. We will have you know that when we were going through the Orion darkness to emerge into the Orion light, we did not have any interventions from other civilizations, any conversations with extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial beings to help us learn to become enlightened by raising our vibration. We had to go deep, so deep into darkness and rest there for so long until almost imperceptibly a flicker began to illuminate the tiniest, darkest corner of the hearts of many of our civilization. And we were so shocked in that self-illumination, so taken aback, so overwhelmed with hope that we flamed the fire, we fanned the flame because we wanted to grow it slowly to see where it could take us. But it was a very slow realization. It took many, many, many generations for that flicker of light to become the enlightenment that we eventually arrived at. The reason that it took so long is because the pull of polarity is very tempting. You have emotions associated with the pull of polarity that are enlivening. You have the ideas of revenge and justice, retribution and fairness, anger and righteousness. And these emotions can be very compelling. We do not say that they are emotions that you should not choose. They also serve their purpose. But when you are trying to raise your vibration to be able to see the whole, you do have to allow polarity to disintegrate somewhat. And the place that you want to come into alignment with is the point of paradox in the center. That is where you are able to raise your vibration and forge a pathway that is not always in resistance. And we tell you now on Earth, you can see that this tension, this ability to want to hang on to resistance is rife on your planet. You are demonstrating for yourself many timelines where you can continue on down that path. And there will be versions of Earth that do. There has been versions of Earth that already have, and the Greys have experienced them. This is another moment, another opportunity for human beings to choose to We often don't like the word ascend because it suggests that you are going somewhere. But to choose to recreate a higher vibrational earth on a higher vibrational timeline, and never has the contrast and the choice been so beautifully played out before you, you really can see you have. In the Orion system, we did not have that. We had to slowly carve out through the creative capacity and imaginative power that we had a pathway forwards. But it was never that we could choose a path that was being demonstrated to us and make an alignment with that in order to move forward. The choice that you have is exciting, and it is also so expansive because you can really see that there are potential timelines that you can choose if it is valuable for you. There is no judgment around those choices. You are not, in a sense, as we were, imprisoned in one idea and needing to burrow your way into the light of your heart to move through this time-space reality. No, you can simply observe, choose, and vibrate higher. And that is really an opportunity to experience bliss, the bliss of having your higher self talk with you about what are the options available to you and how much you can expand on this timeline. And to experience that consciously, to know that that opportunity is there for you and you can choose to move forward consciously is really a great privilege. How exciting to be on Earth at this time. We are so enjoying checking in and being here with you. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. That's for that beautiful answer. And thank your civilization for such an act of love. Thank you.
Yes, it is. But be aware that we are also family. We are coming to you because we want you to cycle through and continue the journey that was started in the Orion system. We are all ancestors in existence, and we are all invested in the enlightenment of civilizations as they move forward.
Yes, love is still love.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Zariyah, can you tell us a little bit about the source and usages of crop circles, please?
Yes. Some of the most descriptive languages and most universal languages are geometry, symbols, mathematics. If you look at the description of light in the Kabbalah, it is very similar to the way that physics would try to describe light. There is a component of mathematics to that. There is a component of geometry to that. Therefore, crop circles are the impression that appears of a symbol, of a geometry, that is the result of a communication between Gaia and extra-dimensional forces. There is a vibrational frequency range that is met, which has served throughout all of the development of your Earth to fertilize the Earth in many ways, to stabilize the Earth in many ways. The codes that you see appearing in crop circles are communications between extraterrestrial beings and Gaia, and they are part of the grid work that serves to stabilize the Earth through the ascension process. You will notice that the places where the crop circles have been, we will say, impressed upon the Earth, there is an effect of fertility in that area for Gaia. after the crop circles have been impressed in that area, the seeds that are produced are more fertile. This is an example of the ways that aligning with the geometry of the universe is a restorative process. And Gaia herself does need restoration in many aspects as you move through this timeline, because human beings, and we do love you so much, do have a tendency to compromise some of Gaia's capacities for self-sustainability. Does that help?
That's more than I could have asked for. Thank you very much, Louise.
You are so welcome.
You're muted, Louise. Not yet. Bottom left corner.
Sorry, that should be better now. Can you hear me now? Great.
Yes.
My mistake. I
That
am
is
very
often the
interested.
experience of your higher self trying to talk to you. Can you hear me now? Take yourself off mute.
Thank you. I'm very interested in the path of Orion from darkness to the light,
Yes.
because I think there's a lot that we can use at this point.
Yes.
We are in a very interesting knee of a curve that is it requires a lot of effort from my perspective. And I have been going to bed with some regularity with the thoughts that center around what can I do? And in a dream state last night, I was given some information on light and sound, light beyond what we can see with our eyes, and sounds beyond what we can hear with our hearings. In other words, with our basic senses.
Yes.
And that information basically, I was actually kind of shown how light could be used to cleanse, organize, dissolve, and create the spark that creates the jumps that lead into the light. Now, that was at a and the other part was that they said you can do that with sound too, basically, but the details were not in the dream, of course. So I'd like to see what you can elaborate on that and assist me in that direction.
Yes, there is certainly a mechanics to light, and there is enormous power and energy in light. And that is why it is so much discussed and so sought to be understood. We will make a distinction for you, however, that the sound is a manifestation of vibration. If you think of the universal Om, the Om is a repetition of a vibration, and the Om is the original conception or first materialization of the vibration of the universe. First, you have thought. The original thought of source was to create. Therefore, the original, again, we are running into a wall of not having the language to describe that which we would wish to convey. But suffice to say, the genesis of the universe was a thought. And then after the thought, it was a sound. And then you have this recorded even in your biblical texts. The Lord said, let there be light, and light came next. So you have phases of the introduction of representations of source into existence. You have thought, sound, and light. Therefore, you understand that these very basic tools represent some of the most ancient, most tangible, and most powerful representations of source. All of them you can do. You can cultivate a creative thought. You can speak a creative sound. You can hold an illuminating light in your heart. These are all capabilities you have. We would also say that from the Orion perspective, that the divinity of light was almost beyond a capacity to bear it. So beautiful was it after we had spent so long in the dark. It was really an encounter with light that so overwhelmed us in its beauty that it took us many thousands of years to have the confidence to grow within our civilization. We had been so hidden away in the shadows. We had been so without light. It was a cultivation process to accustom ourselves again to light. And the realization that the genesis of light was inside of us and that we could then project that out into the universe was the realization that collapsed the matrix of darkness that we had labored under for so long. And again, there is many stories in your religious texts and in your indigenous cultures that understand this, that source spoke the light and that you have the same capacity to do that. You, as a reflection of source, have the opportunity to speak light, to act light into existence. The power of that is within you. There are many on your planet who seek light as a destination to which they must get to. And we tell you that is the long way round. You are the destination and the light is within you. It is a powerful tool, but first you must understand that you can project it. You can generate it. That's how powerful you are. Does that help?
That helps. And that's what I capture from the dream state
Yes.
last night, that I could create it and that it
Yes.
was beyond my comprehension because it exceeded that which has ever been produced and seen by a human or heard by a human.
Yes.
And that I only needed to focus it and project it, basically.
Yes, it is limitless light. And what you are tapping into is the very point that you are at this moment, particularly this April, particularly this 2024 timeline, that you are at the precipice of understanding that the light is generated within you. And once that understanding really lands, you can project it out in a limitless way, in a way that is never been done before, quite like this on this timeline. It is so exciting. The wrestling that is still going on your planet, however, is the idea that both the light and the dark reside outside of you, that one of them must be wrestled to the ground and extinguished, and one of them must be somehow taken around and used to light up everywhere on the planet. It isn't like that. It is the recognition that you generate both, and it is through your thought and your sound that you can project either lightness or darkness. It's up to you.
Thank you very much.
You are so welcome.
Hi, Zariyah. I have a question about the ocean.
Yes.
What's in the ocean that makes me so happy after I swim in there every single time? Is it me loving the water, or is there something special in the ocean and nature that makes me kind of like tune to my high vibrational frequency?
Well, we are so happy to hear that you are able to vibrate so high when you are in communion with a body of water. And this is, of course, a very natural high, because water is as important a material on your planet, perhaps more important a material on your planet as land. And what we would say about water is that it has a exponential amplifying effect of whatever it is you are vibrating. You will have perhaps observed the work of some scientists on your planet who have observed the formulation of water molecules in response to a positive vibrational frequency range being directed at them in the form of words. I believe the case was that if you speak a positive word around water, water responds positively in its formation. It takes the word and becomes an artistic representation of its response to that word. It also has a similar reaction to negative impressions that are directed towards it. In this sense, water is a conduit for whatever the vibrational frequency range of that which is directed towards it or around it. Therefore, you can take an enormous confirmation of your vibrational frequency range, that when you put yourself in the ocean and you are surrounded by water, and the water responds so positively to the vibration that you are inhabiting, then it exponentially expands around you. It amplifies that vibration. It is in conversation with your vibrational frequency range. It is creating experiences of love, of communion, of community, of recognition, of artistry, and of solidarity around you. How beautiful. Often you will recognize when you see the whales and dolphins on your planet, the joy that they seem to feel, and almost a sense of reverence around these animals. It is also a co-creation that they are creating with the water around them. They are moving through water and they are generating a high vibrational landscape around them. And you can understand that you also did the same. How exciting. The ocean thanks you for bringing that vibration to it and wishes you to come more often.
Thank you. That's amazing.
You are so welcome. Is there any further questions?
Yes, Zariyah, thank you. I've learned from other sources that we have our personality is inviolate. Once we've been created, we'll always exist.
Yes.
And so that that's and that we can possibly develop into an entity ourselves and create other beings. But that always makes me wonder, where was I before I decided to come here and experience separation? And where was everyone else here before we decided to come here and experience emotions and separation?
Well, you understand that it is always now, that you are always here and you are always there. You are always in non-physical as well. The idea that there is an actual beginning and an end to the timeline that you are on is a construction of the physical mind to give you a sense of continuity. And the construction, however, it does not account for the idea that humans grapple with of non-existence. Because when you cease to exist physically on this timeline, the conclusion of the physical mind is that then you don't exist. But of course, that is not the case. This is your physical self on this timeline is a component of your higher self and your broader self having an experience in this now moment. If you think back to experiences that you have had, say in your childhood, take a moment, have a think. Can you recall an experience from childhood?
Certainly.
Can you describe it?
Oh. Putting me on the spot here.
It can be just a flash or an image, riding a bicycle, going to the park, having
Okay,
a
riding a bicycle. That's a good one.
You can remember riding a bicycle. That person who rode the bicycle, can you feel into the sensation of her? Do you recognize the reality of her? Do you access her state of mind and state of being?
No, I can just sort of picture it.
If you focus on the picture, perhaps you are able to generate in yourself the feelings that that child was having, the experience that that child was having at that time. Do you think that that child exists?
Well, no, as a human, I think she existed.
She existed, but who are you?
I'm her grown up.
You are her. You are her. You are in a different form, but you are her. She is still here in the umbrella sense of you. She has not ceased to exist. She has been absorbed into the greater form that is you. And that is what continues. Versions of you don't exist in the same way, but they are always accessible. They are always still there, and they are always a part and component of the broader you. And that is why we have talked today about really understanding the total you. You are more than this physical experience. This physical experience is a component of you, and it has taken many forms, and those components are always accessible. But your total self is the component of you that continues across timelines and through different incarnational expressions and over what you would consider linear time. Does that help?
Okay, yes.
One more question, if you can, Zariyah, please.
Yes.
And whenever I was a small child, even pre-verbal, I had this image of like an inverted pyramid that would come down and sit on my finger. And as I grew older, I would put all kinds of heavy things I would picture in it, buses and elephants and planes, because that was the only way I could learn to express myself. And then about the time I got to 4, it kind of faded out, but it's never really gone away. Can you explain to me what that was or is?
Yes. Often you will find the pyramid symbol or the triangular symbol. We were talking before about geometry, is a symbol of existence because it is the Trinity. You will find in all sorts of descriptions of the nature of existence, you will find this Trinity. You have, for want of a better word, positive, negative, and neutral. You have the past, present, and future. You have all sorts of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, mother, father, child. You have all sorts of representations of Trinity that are used to represent existence itself in its entirety. You understand that as you start to get to the core truths of existence, things become more simple, not more complicated. And the representation of existence through the Trinity or through the triangle is a very common one. When you are a child and you come into your physical body, your physical incarnation, you do struggle for those initial years to come to terms with the limitations of existence in this realm. Remember, you have come from the most expansive set of timelines and experiences that when we scan your records and your connections, that the ability to fold yourself down into one human incarnation was indeed a process of stepping into, with great caution, the physical reality and giving yourself some imagery and some geometry to try to understand the new limitations of your existence. And this is why you attempted to put things into it, so to speak. Does my existence, does my reality fit this? Can I squash this in? What are the parameters of this reality and of this existence? And as you understood how very, very small they were, this incarnation, you came to terms with that reality and you no longer needed the pyramid shape as a guide. Does that help?
That was excellent. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you.
You are so welcome. You can turn the pyramid right side up now. You know where you are. If there are no further questions, we will bid you good day and we hope to see you at the next transmission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zariyah.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Greetings.
Lots of
Fabulous.
Come back.
that was fabulous.
Oh, great.
That might be one of my favorite sessions. There were so many different topics which were covered with new information.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I love that. I actually got a intuition to, halfway through I was like, and that's the first time I've done that, so that's awesome, you know. So I feel like that was her, like, just like, ooh, helping me.
Wow.
Yeah, it's always a
Beautiful,
joy,
beautiful.
and I always like reading them or playing them, the recording the next day, or maybe even a couple of times.
Oh, thank you. And
There's so much in it.
I just want to thank everybody so much for sharing this information. And I know Bonnie has created a page, and I know Jenny, you've been promoting it so much in your networks, and Ray doing all this transcribing and people commenting, and it's such an abundance of goodwill, you know, and I'm so grateful for it, because you can't ask for that kind of network just out of nowhere, you know. It just either, you know, arrives or it doesn't. So thank you so much.
Well, you have earned it.
Thanks to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's so
I mean,
lovely.
this is really energizing. So, you know, we're just continuing with the energy that we're receiving, and, you know, we're getting from multiple sources. We're just channeling it into our own personal growth that you're allowing us to have it in this particular direction. So thank you.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's helping me a lot with my own personal growth as well. I find I'm just able to really move through things that have been, you know, obstacles for me for a long time. So I'm so it's such an opportunity for me, you know, to develop positively as well.
And the energy that everybody brings, and having more and more people,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
really affects.
Yeah. And people, like, when I listen back to it, the questions are just amazing, you know, and it's stuff that I really want to know as well. So it's like, it just, you know, triggers so much information that I really want to learn about. So thank you so much.
And your answers are so amazing, because it's not only do you answer the question, but you go off in different directions, and your answers are deep and wide and sort of all encompassing in a way. And it's almost as if the question has 3 pounds, but the answer has 30 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like some of the questions today, like, there was a couple of times I felt like it's just like this feeling of like a blank. I can't find the language, you know, and it's almost like I can see what the concept is, but it's just difficult to find the language. And so that's super amazing that the questions are that big, you know, that it's like, I don't know if the language is there.
Well, beyond the words that we're using, I think that Orion is actually registering our thoughts and our feelings about the subject and capturing what needs to be addressed.
Yes.
That's the way that I have experienced it.
Yeah, that's so beautifully put. Yeah,
And the other part
amazing.
is, yeah, maintaining the authenticity, because she wants to make sure that, you know, we're getting the information that resonates with us in a
Yeah.
manner that we can interpret as close to the concept she's trying to get across as possible.
Very much so.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What a crazy experience, guys.
Really.
I like
Yeah.
this.
Ash, can you
Wild.
tell if there's like male and female sexuality in the Orion civilization?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty strong,
Okay.
it's more an
Just
energetic.
curious.
Yeah, I feel like it's an energetic, like the civilization itself to me feels very kind of, feels like there's a lot of oppression of everything, you know, masculine, feminine, whatever, you know. But there's still quite a strong sense around, she feels feminine to me, you know, Zariyah does. So yeah, Orion's a pretty intense energy, don't you think? It's kind of
I
very
do.
But she never refers to herself in the singular.
right. Yes.
With
Yeah.
So is me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if maybe we could ask that next week, because I would like to know that as well. Yeah, who are you? Who are you, Zariyah?
But, you know,
We'll
like
That's what we're
see
busy
her
asking
on Halloween.
ourselves down here.
Bashar said, you know, he's only 15%. That's the most that he has ever come through, Daryl Anka, is 15% of him. So he's like, well, you know, what part of me do you want me to answer for? The
So
full part that's quasi-physical, or the part that comes through to you that you can talk to an ET? You know,
no,
which
so can you
which
say
is
that again? Bashar said only 15%.
right
What did
of his energy identity. Only 50, normally it's between 5 and 10%, but the maximum he has ever focused through Daryl Anka was 15%.
of Bashar, the individual?
Yes, the
Okay.
body individual, the first
Yeah.
contact specialist. So, you know,
So who is Bashar?
oh,
No,
Oh,
I mean, no, I mean, I know who Bashar is, obviously. I
Okay.
mean, like, Bashar. I didn't know, this is new information to me that you were saying, is Bashar a collective?
as
No.
Yeah, I
far
was just getting ready to say that. You know,
Yeah.
Bashar is a collective and Abraham is a collective.
Yeah,
And those collectives change with every interaction.
right.
but he
I
uses
always
a
thought of
focused
Bashar as like a one person, you know, or
Yeah.
an individual.
Yeah, the label is more of a teaching aid, the way I understand it, because a lot of humans need something to focus on.
That
You know,
makes
you might
sense.
say, well, yeah, there's this quasi entity that doesn't have any form, and it's not really a place, and expect people to say, well, I can't listen to something like that.
Yes, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
The label
Yeah.
in the face, they're like, oh, now I can hear it.
Oh, well, we'll have to ask her next week. You know, who have we been dealing with, Zariyah? We would like to know.
Show the credentials.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all one. We've been dealing with everybody.
Yeah. I better go, guys.
But it might be
So much.
it might be interesting to devote an entire session, Ash, where you form all the questions and then answer them, because there are questions that you would have of Zariyah that none of us could possibly formulate. And I think that might be really interesting.
Do you know, I feel I do have one or two questions. I might ask Ray to pop one or two questions in next week. But I do love the diversity of questions that people ask, because I think people ask things that I would never think about, you know, and so the information is like, oh wow, you know, like I feel like it's so interesting for me to hear from other people's curiosities and things as well.
I would
Um,
suggest that on every session, there's maybe 2 questions that you had, and you can pass them to Ray or the moderator, and
yes,
can
just
take them
slip it
for
in
you.
there.
Yeah, slip it in there, and then that will create a depth, an additional dimension to that.
Yes.
In other sessions, I've asked the entities if they had a message for the channeler. And normally they
Yes.
said, you know, we're already doing this stuff in sleep state. If she needs something, we'll tell her.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Clear. Okay.
Hey,
Yeah. I'm over here in the corner now, just waiting for class to start again. Sorry. Is that really me to ask the question? You know, so.
well, if anybody asks that, if there's any question time left next week, I'm going to get the Tats Lotto numbers, Ray, for sure.
Every connection's different, right? So
There we
thank
are.
you all so much.
There we are.
I'm going to pop on over to Jenny's after I take my dog outside.
Yeah, I'll speak to you later, guys. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks
so
very
much.
much.
See you later.
Thank you so much.